Okay, next, at the top of page 1-1, it's a good little discussion opener for us. It says, Cassie and her friends are at a baseball game. The stadium is running a promotion where hot dogs are 10 cents each. Now, a pet peeve of mine is not writing that $ in the correct place when you're talking about money. So please note how it's written here and in your textbook. Suppose D represents the number of hot dogs Cassie and her friends eat. Then 10D represents the cost of the hot dogs they eat. Now, your questions that I'd like for us to have a discussion about is, and I know it's kind of hard for you right now, you can't discuss back with me, but I'm going to say a few things, and we're going to look at this problem together, and I'll be discussing, and hopefully you can pause the video and see if your answer matches mine. Question number 1, how do you find the cost of the hot dogs that Cassie and her friends eat? Okay, now up in the problem it says that the stadium is running a promotion where hot dogs are 10 cents each. And suppose D represents the number of hot dogs that Cassie and her friends eat. Well, then 10D represents the cost of the hot dogs. So that means that we're going to multiply 10 cents times the number of hot dogs that they purchase. Okay, next, question number 2 says, what does the expression 0.10D stand for? And there is a typo in the problem up top. It should be 0.10 instead of 10. So I will try to get that typo corrected. What does that expression stand for? 0.10D. Think about that for a minute. What is the cost of the hot dogs? And what is the variable that was chosen for us to represent the number of hot dogs? Okay, if you think about that, then you know the answer to that question is 0.10 times D, where D means the number of hot dogs, and you're multiplying times the price, which was 10 cents. What other variable could you use to represent the number of hot dogs? Well, now that's a real open question. Your favorite letter of the alphabet. You could choose any variable that you would like. And a variable is a letter that stands for a number. What I like to encourage you to do is to choose a variable that is going to help you remember what you're looking for. For instance, our authors chose D to represent hot dog. We might choose H. Some of you might like to use X and Y. That's fine too. Just make sure that it makes sense to you what that variable stands for. Okay, so our answers again. Question 1 was multiply the number of hot dogs by 10 cents. What does the expression 0.1D stand for? It stands for 10 cents times D, which is the number of hot dogs. And what other variables could you use to represent the number of hot dogs? You could use an H or any other variable, any other letter of the alphabet. You could even use a drawing if you wanted to be a variable. Next, we're going to take algebraic expressions, and we're going to write a verbal expression for each algebraic expression. Now take a look at these problems here. Now, I know this is math. Why do we have to use our words? Well, in a world like we are today, we have to be able to communicate our thoughts and certain concepts. Just like me, I'm having to use my words to communicate to you because you can't see me and I'm not writing on a board. So what I want you to do is I want you to think about if we were in the classroom and I was at the board and I said, Taylor, I know there's a Taylor watching this. Would you read problem A to me? And Taylor, how would you read that? You would say 8 times x squared. or possibly 8x to the second power. There's a variety of ways that you could say that. And possible answers would be, just that as I've said, using your words, 8. Ooh, that's terrible writing. Y'all will have to excuse me. It takes a little while to get used to it again. 8 times x squared. You could also say the product of 8 and x to the second power. There's a number of different correct answers. Just because someone uses one set of words doesn't mean that you can't say it differently. There's lots of different ways to say hello. I can say, hey, what's up? Or, yo, what's happening? Just because somebody says it one way doesn't mean there isn't another way to say it correctly. Okay, in part B, we have another algebraic expression given to us. So pause for just a minute and think about, if I were at the board, how would you read this to me so that I could write it down? Okay, did you have enough time to think about how you would read that? You could easily say y to the 5th power minus 16 times y. Now that's probably about the simplest way to write it. If you're trying to think more advanced, you might want to throw the word difference in there. And your problem would be the difference of y to the 5th power and 16 times y. Now, if you notice at the bottom of the screen, I have example 1, page 5. That means on page 5 of your CD textbook, you can look at example 1, which will be some other examples rather than the ones that I have given you. Okay, let's move on. Now we're going to write an algebraic expression for the verbal expression. So we've got words given to us, and we're going to take these words and change them to algebra. Okay, so we have 5 less than a number C. How do you suppose we'll need to write that? Think on that just a minute. I'll give you a hint. A key phrase here is less than. Now, we are not going to use a less than symbol. We're going to use a minus symbol. But you've got to be real careful with the phrase less than, because what comes after the less than symbol needs to come first in your algebraic expression. So a number C, we do not know what that number is, so we simply keep that variable C. Less than tells us minus, and then we have the number 5 before less than. Okay, anytime we have that phrase than, listen closely. Anytime we have the phrase that with than, less than, or more than, that means you're going to flip-flop that sentence. And what's last, in this case the variable came in the last part, will be first. Then your symbol, in this case a minus, and then what comes before that phrase less than, which in this case is the 5. Okay, and then our next example, read our words, 2/5 of the area A. Okay, we don't know what the area A is, but we know that we're finding 2/5. So we're going to write that fraction, 2/5 times A. Okay, now I want you to think just a minute. Is there another way that I could write this and the problem still be correct? Now I know watching this video is supposed to be a young man named Cody. So Cody, I want you thinking on this. Or Brody, Cody and Brody, they rhyme, so I'll call both of you. What do you think? Do you think there's another way to write this? I hope you said yes, because I can also write this with the A in the numerator. Both of those mean the exact same thing. 2/5 of the area A could be written as 2 over 5 with the A next to the fraction bar, or you could write it 2A in the numerator over 5. Now we'll get into that a little bit more in class, or if we need to start a discussion on it, I will encourage you to start a discussion in our Google Classroom. Now, if you would like to look at some more examples of writing an algebraic expression for each verbal expression, your CD textbook, page 6, example 2, gives you some more to look at and some more to think about. Okay, next, let's look at the dreaded word problem. Victoria and Jacob, I know y'all probably don't like word problems, but I don't care. We got to do them. So, Christian, you just kind of keep everybody on task for me and make sure they're doing these word problems and don't let them skimp out on me. Okay, our word problem here. Mrs. Cater bought 2 adult-priced tickets and 3 student-priced tickets for the planetarium show. Miss Cater being the science teacher this next year for you, that sounds like something she would do. Now we're asked to write an algebraic expression that represents the cost of the tickets. Okay? First off, we always need to define a variable. Now that doesn't mean to come up with a letter and write a big long definition for it. Defining the variable is something very simple. We want to choose what variable is going to represent our unknown. So look at this and think. What do we not know, Cooper? What do we not know about these tickets? Landon, do you know? Skylar? Okay, well, one thing we don't know is the price. So what would you like to let the variable be? Whatever you want to is fine. You may choose a different variable from me. I am going to let P, and here's how I define a variable. P equals the price of, I'll tell you what, I'm changing my mind. I'm not going to let P equal the price of the tickets, and here's why. Because there are 2 unknown ticket costs. If you read this again, we've got adult tickets and student tickets. So we need for our adult tickets to be A. So let's go with A equals adult tickets. And let's go with S equals student tickets. Now we're trying to write an expression that represents the cost of the tickets. Now Miss Cater bought 2 adult, so that's going to be represented with 2A, and, so that would be a plus, 3 student, so that's 3S, and ta-da! If we need to know the total cost, even though we don't know the price right now, this would be our expression to find out the price. Now, if you need another word problem example, please go to page 6 in your CD textbook for example 3. Now we are down to the assignment, and since we're not in class, I will not make you lie on the floor and write the problem on the board with your toes like someone is doing in the picture. And yes, we do that sometimes, but that's okay. We like to have fun. Your assignment, pages 7 and 8, you're only going to do problems 11 through 39 odd. 11 through 39 odd. Okay? Now, seems like a lot of problems, but I counted them up and it's not too many. What I want you to do, the odd number problems, you can usually find the answers in your textbook. So I'm guessing in your online textbook, you'll be able to, I'm sorry, not your online, your CD textbook, you'll be able to fish around and find the answers. If you miss a problem, please start a discussion so that you and your classmates can discuss and gain some understanding. That is it for now. So the three things that I'm looking for is number 1A, either start a discussion or respond to a discussion. Now, when I tell you to respond to a discussion, I don't mean, yeah, that's right, or no, that's wrong, or yes, I agree, no, I disagree. I want your discussion to be meaningful. So, Ivy Blake, if somebody posts something, you can't just post yes or no. You've got to post something meaningful. Paris and Noah, same with you. Don't let Ivy Blake do it. Next, I would like for you to scan in, and that would be with your phone scanner. Scan in and email your work to me through our Google Classroom. That should be easy for you to do. And number 3, which I probably should have put as number 1, don't be afraid to ask for help. There are a couple of 8th graders on there, Katie Lynn Caraway, who, if I am unavailable to answer a question, Katie Lynn would gladly jump in and help. Also, we've got Mackenzie Farley, Mackenzie Farley is on there. She's learning with us. She can help us out. Now, Haley Bradbury, I know I didn't call your name, but you got to get this homework done. And if somebody is not doing their homework, and Allie Gilliam, you too, you make sure these folks get their homework, okay? And y'all scan it in, email it to me, and I will see you next time. Oh, don't forget, questions, ask. I'm not a mind reader.